Hi, my name is Kim. I'm a musician. I play guitar in various bands and play around town in KL. I am also a fingerstyle guitarist and a singer-songwriter. I'm also a composer. I compose for visuals and movie productions, assisting music director in movie productions also. And I'm a co-founder of Hansel, a volunteering platform, and also a co-founder of a social enterprise called the Picha Project. So before I introduce you what the Picha Project is, mainly I'm going to introduce to what I do in the Picha Project today and my Picha journey. But before I introduce you to that, I want to tell you what is a refugee. So many times when we had to introduce what the Picha Project is, we would tell people the Picha Project is blah 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 blah, but all our shares are refugees. And people will go like, what are refugees? So refugees are people that have to flee from their current country, their homeland, because war, persecution, or political conflicts are happening back in their country. So it's not safe for them to remain staying there. They choose to leave their homeland and seek for another country, for hoping that they will find a safe place to stay in and gain a sustainable living. So that's the definition of a refugee to us. So I want to tell you some facts that you probably will find it on Wikipedia, but hopefully after my speech and with my tone today, you'll find it much more alarming and very urgent. There are actually 65 million refugees in the world today. We can now form, with this population, we can now form the third largest country in the world. But sadly, only 5% gets to resettle. And when I talk about resettling, it means that when they seek refuge from another country, they register themselves under the United Nations as a refugee or an asylum seeker, waiting for around 7 to 20 or probably 30 years to get resettled to another country, gaining citizenship. So they will have better access to education, medical health care, or probably be able to gain an income from there. So that is called resettling. So 5% of them only gets to resettle. So what happens to the rest of the 95%? So the rest of the 95% either are stuck in refugee camps where limited food or water are provided. They are either stuck in the country they seek refuge from where they don't get to gain an income, or no shelter, no food, no one to support. Or they are either sent back to their homeland where war and persecution continue to happen right there. So, zooming into Malaysia, there are more than 150,000 registered refugees now in Malaysia. But Malaysia is not under the UN 1951 UN Refugee Convention signatory. Therefore, there are no refugee camps in Malaysia. These 150,000 registered refugees have no legal rights to work. They cannot gain a sustainable income. Therefore, no better livelihood, no access to education, no medical health care, sometimes no shelter above their head or even food on their table. So going back to 3 years ago, where me and my two co-founders co-founded a volunteering platform called Hansel. What we do is we channel university students as volunteers to the underserved community, providing them education assistance. So I was a musician, and all I know what to do is music, so I teach music. So when I was teaching music there, I organized and conducted three fundraising concerts along the way, raising money for education. And from there, last year, many of our kids start dropping out of school. So from my class, 20 to 10 to 8 to 5. And we were really worried and very concerned about this situation. So we went for home visitations, tried to understand why our kids are dropping out of school. And we realized that in their family, in this community, they face a very big financial problem. Their kids are either they cannot afford to go to school, or either they have to quit school to work to support a family of probably 5 to 10. But at the same time, we also observe that everyone knows how to cook, because even a 10-year-old can cook for a family of 5 to 10. I'm 26 years old this year, but I cannot cook for myself. So we were really amazed by this thing and how resilient and strong were they. And we wanted to create a platform for them where they can showcase these skills to our customers, our clients, our public. And so we created the Picha Project. So to officially introduce you to the Picha Project right now, the Picha Project is a catering and delivery service. We are a social enterprise, but all our cooks are refugees. So now we have 8 families with us. We have 2 from Afghanistan, 2 from Syria, 2 from Myanmar, 1 Iraq, and 1 Gaza. And I hope you all have your lunch, because I'm going to show you some of our food. This is from Afghanistan. It's called bolani and mantu. It's our favorite. From Gaza, chicken mandi. Hummus and bread from Syria. This is like real pictures that me and my photographer took. So this is chicken biryani. I know everyone here is very familiar about chicken biryani in Malaysia, but when you try chicken biryani from Syria, it is the bomb. It's different. And on our lunch boxes, we do place a story of the particular family that cooked that food, where they came from, what's their journey coming here, and what they faced, what struggle they went through, and how your purchase can actually empower them in their daily lives. So to further introduce you to the Picha Project, I'm going to introduce you to 2 of our families. The first one will be Canoe family. In Chin, Canoe means mother, and the reason why we call her mother, because we call our families families. We don't call them beneficiaries. We don't call them suppliers. There's one time our intern came in and he asked us, so these suppliers, and we go like, no, don't call them suppliers. They are our family. So we call Canoe our mother, and when she first started with the Picha Project, she was the first cook for the Picha Project. And we sat together, she cooked what she can with her niece, and we realized that, oh, this one can actually be promoted to the public, and we try to encourage her to try and cook for our public. And we gathered a bunch of friends of 20 to 30 where they were having meeting, and we say like, oh, can you 7 ringgit only ma, come and get from us lah. Then they want to try, and we tried to encourage Canoe. Canoe was really skeptical about the idea about joining the Picha Project. She was inconfident because she don't think that anyone would buy something that was cooked by a poor, or something from home couldn't be promoted outside. And we tried to encourage her for a very long time, and until she was convinced to try out to cook 20 packs for our friends. And when we cook for them, we ask for feedbacks, and the feedback was very positive. So we conveyed this positiveness to Canoe, and she gained more confidence through that. From 20, she cooked to 40, 50, and today she could cook 200 packets per meal per time. And since joining the Picha Project, she could afford to send her kids to school. She could buy stationeries for her kids, and they used to eat rice and just soup or vegetable, that's all. And now she can afford to put meat on her table for her family. So this is Canoe. The next family is Ali. I don't know why the font is like that, but Ali. Okay, so Ali came from Syria. This one is a bit depressing, so you might want your tissue out. When Ali came from Syria, he used to be a compliance officer in Western Union back in Syria. How he described himself being in Malaysia is his life was in pause. Because of his qualifications, no one recognizes his qualifications here. He had to work odd jobs, being a waiter in the restaurants, or washing dishes, washing car, just to sustain his family, who his brother-in-law, his sister, and his 1-year-old nephew, this is 3 years old already, came to Malaysia to sustain them, give them a shelter. And when the reason why they choose to come to Malaysia by plane is because of his 1-year-old nephew at that time. If they were to take the route to Europe by water, it's very, very dangerous for a kid, and therefore they choose to come to Malaysia. But knowing that surviving in Malaysia is way harder than surviving in Europe, because they just couldn't get a job, a decent job to sustain their family. And when Ali got settled down here, he wanted to bring 2 of his parents to Malaysia, but they couldn't bring them in because at that time the law in Syria had to change, and they couldn't escape from Syria, and it took them a year to be able to bring the parents back into Malaysia. And when the parents were in Malaysia, they faced a bit of psychological problem, depression, because of the traumatic experience that they went through back in the country, or the journey here, and they have nothing to do in Malaysia. Ali's dad used to be an architect, and he was a really, really amazing architect back in Syria, but here he was nothing. And he lost his voice because of how traumatized he was. And so Ali came to us asking the Picha Project if we could help out his mom, because his mom cooked really good food. And the chicken biryani was cooked by his mom just now. And so we went to try his food, and we find that the food was really, really amazing. Without hesitation, we say, yes, your mom can be on board with us. And since joining the Picha Project 2 to 3 months, we see improvements in his mom's psychological well-being. His dad could speak after that. He had a voice for himself and started speaking. And it was really, really overwhelming for us to see situations like that. Not how the Picha Project could just give them a sustainable living, but the Picha Project can actually help them improve their well-being, improve their psychological thinking and things like that. So it really was really overwhelming, and it's the field that keeps driving us to do what we are doing today. So that was Ali's family. Going back to the problem, 65 million refugees in the world, 150,000 registered refugees in Malaysia, and the Picha Project is only helping 8 families. Now it don't seem so extraordinary already, right? With the numbers like this. But sometimes I wonder if everyone in this room here, or half of the population in Malaysia who lives above the poverty line, would have just shared a meal with someone from the underserved community, whether they are a refugee or special needs, someone with disabilities or orphanage or anything, any people from the underserved community. We just shared a meal with them, understood their problems, and probably make a simple act. Probably when someone was walking with his walking frame and you give him a lift, or someone couldn't have food and you share your food. Any simple act, I think that's more extraordinary. Because in the Picha Project, we don't believe in doing things alone. We believe in changing the world together, collectively. So that's all for my speech. Thank you very much.